This is my first podcast with my new podcast, video cast equipment. I want to thank Joe Copobianco for turning me on to this and getting me going. I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years. I've been thinking about it. And now's the time. So I don't have a name for my podcast. It's just, we're just going to talk, and I'm going to talk to my good buddy here, Johnny Casino. Johnny's originally from Australia, and he lives in Spain now with his gorgeous wife. And we're lucky he comes in and he visits with us for a month at a time.
I'm lucky you take me.
We love you, Johnny. You're one of my favorites. You're a fantastic tattooer, great storyteller. And I know you worked at Tony Cohen's in Sydney, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You were there for a while.
I worked for Tony for 18 years.
What was your first day like?
First day was intense because I got to speak to his son Brett, which his son Brett has been tattooing forever as well, and basically takes care of things. And Brett spoke to me about what they were looking for and stuff like that. And I got to keep in mind that I'd been tattooing in Philadelphia for maybe a year combined, or a year and a half combined, going back and forward. So I thought I had some idea of what was going on. I knew I didn't have a huge idea, but I thought, okay, I've got some grasp on what needs to happen. But I learned fast that I had really no idea, especially working for someone like Tony. Brett is a different box of fish to Tony. You know, Tony's a pretty intense sort of guy. Once you get to know him, you love him, and he will love you deeply. But like, it's a thick outer shell that you've got to spend years to break down, and you got to not try to break it down in one go. You got to just chip. Like some sort of old Roman sculptor or something like that. You just got to slowly grind away at little bits, and you know. But the first day, Brett had told me sort of what they wanted for me to do, and he'd had a look at some of my work and stuff like that. And he goes, "Okay, go and sit down with the old man." That's what he calls him, and he'll talk to you and tell you some things. Now Tony didn't really talk to me. He didn't even look at me, which was intimidating to begin with. He just looked at the ground, he looked at some photos I had, and then he looked up and at me and then away and asked me, "Do you have your own machines?" And I said, "Yes." And then he went, looked at me again and then looked away and said, "Do you have your own colour?" And I said, "Yes." And he looked up again and he goes, "You know how to make a needle?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay, go back and talk to Brett." That was it. 3 questions, and that was it. And I went back and I sat down next to Brett and talked to Brett for a little bit longer, and Brett goes, "How was the old man?" And I said, "Okay, I guess." I had no idea. He just asked me 3 questions. But he goes, "All right, go and have a seat out there in the waiting room and give me 5 minutes and I'll come and talk to you." And I guess he then went and spoke to the old man, and then he came back out and he said, "Can you be here tomorrow?" They used to work in shifts there, whereas the shop would technically open at midday, but we would often be there at 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that, doing appointments or whatever. But they would do it from 12 till 6, and then another shift would come in from 6 till midnight. Or some people would work the full day, 12 hours. But he said, "Can you be here tomorrow at 6?" And I said, "Yep." And that's how I started.
You remember your first tattoo there?
Yes. And it scared the absolute shit out of me, the first tattoo, because I come from being in Philadelphia, and most of the flash on the walls was very traditional or JD Crow tattoo brand sort of stuff. It was all stuff that I had a fair grasp on. You know what I mean? I thought, okay, I can do this. I just need a 5 needle outliner and a 7 mag shader, and I can get most things done.
Yeah.
Walking into the Illustrated Man and into Tony and Brett's shop, everything that was on the wall was Cherry Creek. And I'd never seen anything like it before. And I remember looking at it thinking, I'm supposed to put all these little lines in the wings of the eagle? Like, how long has this been going on for? Like, no one ever told me about this. And of course, the first thing that came in and fell into my lap, I was up, you know, it was my turn, was like some dragon off a Cherry Creek street that I was looking at going, I'm not sure I've even ever used a 3 needle outliner, and maybe this one needs even is it possible? I didn't even know there could be less than a 3-needle outline because it looked to me like a 3 wouldn't even get it done.
And you learned in Philly, so you were doing really bold,
names and just
more traditional
stuff.
Lots of stuff
so
there.
That was the first thing, and it's funny. I worked for Tony for 18 years, and obviously did thousands and thousands of tattoos. Mm-hmm. And I still remember that first one. I can't tell you the second, third, fourth, or fifth one I did on my first day because it's a busy shop. But I remember the first one, and not just because it was the first one, because it scared the absolute shit out of me. I was just like, "There's no fucking way!" But I've got to do it. Both Tony and Brett, the bosses, have gone home and just left me there with another worker, and I don't want to look like an idiot in front of him. So I've just got to do it. I'll try to do it. Of course, I had learned a few tricks in Philadelphia, and I went out the back and made it a little bit bigger than what it was on the wall, thinking customer will never.
They'll never know.
I made it a little bit bigger so that it was easier for me at the time. Yeah. Now it wouldn't bother me at all, but back then I was like, if I just make it bigger, like he's not going to notice. And I got the tattoo on him. It took me a while, but I got it on him.
Good. Well, when I was learning, the lady that taught me told me it's legal and 100% moral and ethical to take your design to the copy machine and take it up 10% either way.
Right.
10% bigger or smaller. You don't even have to tell them. It's ethical. There's nothing wrong with it.
Uh-huh.
So
illegal.
The customer doesn't know. It's only 10%. Who fucking cares?
Right.
You know, they're lucky.
Well, you're giving them 10, 20% more than what they're paying for, right?
That's right. They're lucky they get anything in my book. You know, fucking lucky. So tell me about the first time you went to New Orleans, because that's where we met.
I can't remember what year it was, Annette, but the first time we went there was me and my now wife. We had just sort of started dating, and she's from Spain, and we organised a meet in San Francisco, and then we made a trip to New Orleans for 4 or 5 days. And I remembered calling up one of the people who taught me how to tattoo, Cosmo, or I know him as Howard.
Howie, yeah.
People call him the Cosmic Commander. But I remembered calling him from San Francisco and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in New Orleans and I want to get a tattoo." And he's like, "Okay, you got to go and see this guy, you know what I mean? He's the new young guy, blah, blah, blah. He's doing all the fancy tattoo." And after he was telling me all these people I need to go and see, and I said to him, No. I don't want to see any fucking shit-hot new fancy tattooer guy. I want to see the equivalent of you. Someone that means, you know what I mean? Someone that will mean something like you do to me in Philadelphia, someone who's like that in New Orleans. And he went, okay, then you need to go and see Annette. And that's not that you in any way, shape or form remind me of my dear friend Howard.
Well, I'm not a scumbag. I'm wild a little, but I'm not a scumbag.
No, but what I meant was I wanted to get tattooed by, you know what I mean, by someone that had history, someone who, you know, who meant something to tattooing. I didn't care. I still don't to this day. I don't care about, you know, not that you aren't going to do a better tattoo than anyone else, but it's not really that important to me. You know what I mean? I want to get tattooed by people that I think I might be able to have a connection with, or people that I'm interested in learning from, or people that I'm interested in knowing, you know, or getting to meet. So then once I said that to him, he understood, and he was like, okay, you got to go and see Annette.
You want the experience.
Well, I you know.
And man, you know, when we met, I had such a good time tattooing you. Your wife is lovely. And you invited me to come down in Australia. Uh-huh. And I said, yeah, one day. Every year it was one day. Man, I should have got on the plane and gone down there right away, because
you know
it's over down there. It's done, isn't it?
It's not like it was. You know, it's funny you say that, because about 2 or 3 weeks ago, me and Brett and Tony still talk. I call him boss. I still talk to him once a month. I'll send him a message, or he'll send me a message. And his son, me and Brett are quite close. And he actually sent me a message about 3 weeks ago or a month ago. He said, who's this Annette LaRue? And I said, why are you asking me that? And he's like, because he was reading something and you were conversating with someone in Fremantle or someone in Perth or someone on the other side of Australia.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that you really wished that you came to Australia and you knew me and it was a chance and you didn't go or something like that, but you'd still like to go. And once I explained to Brett who Annette is and what she means to me personally, he said to me, and I haven't told this to you yet, he said, you tell Annette she's welcome here anytime she wants.
That's so sweet. Well, next year, Johnny, let's do an Australia tour.
I'll go see the kangaroos, yeah?
Yeah, I'll rent a van. You bring your music stuff. You can do some gigs up on the way.
There you go.
We'll go up the coast.
Yeah.
I want to go to Kimberley.
Podcaster and tour manager.
There you go.
I want to go to Kimberley because they ride horses up there. I want to ride.
Yeah.
That's where the Man from Snowy River was filmed, wasn't it?
No, well, Kimberley's is on the other side of Australia, which is really red. But yes, they do ride the
up
Aboriginals
in the north.
Ride. I mean, up there. The Man from Snowy River is closer to Sydney.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
I thought it was up in the northern territories up there.
No, it's more closer to.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one of my favorite movies, and I love Aussie people. I love the whole culture. I love that you guys are kind of wild and a little bit gritty. Yes, I love that.
That's a good word for us.
I love it. I love Australians that I know are raw and they're honest.
They're not backward and coming forward, is what an English saying would be. Australians are not backward in coming forward, meaning like they tell it how it is.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that. That's good. And I'm very interested in the terrain, and I just want to see what's over there. I want to see the plants. My favorite plant in the whole world is a staghorn fern native to Australia.
Okay.
How is that?
Because you've been to New Zealand.
Yeah.
A few times, yeah.
I've been to New Zealand like 5 or 6 times. I have family. I've godchildren there.
What you're going to do is hop across they call it the ditch.
It's 3,000 miles. It's not a hop, Johnny. It's like from New York to San Francisco.
Australians and Kiwis, as we call them, the Kiwis would call it a Dutch, because that's their accent, and the Aussies would call it a ditch.
Oh.
Just hop across the ditch to New Zealand, and the Kiwi would say, just hop across the Dutch.
Oh, okay. And I love the rivalry between you guys. Like you're the same. Like if you're somewhere else and you knock that part of the country, they're going to take up for each other.
Absolutely.
But they're also going to fight each other.
No, you're absolutely spot on there. Face to face, they're like, no, fuck you, we've got it going on and you don't. But if a German or an American or a Japanese wants to pick on Australian or New Zealand, the Australian would have the New Zealand back and the New Zealand would have the Australian back. It's like we're allowed to fight amongst each other, but if any of you fuckers up there in the north, the whole rest of the world north, want to try to pick on us, you're in trouble.
Good.
That's Australian.
I love it. I love it. And I'll tell you, I bet the Australian army is some bad motherfuckers. I wouldn't fuck with them at all.
I think that they're pretty... I think that I don't know too much about the history, but what I do know is from my grandfathers who fought in one of the wars, and they were respected by other.
I'm sure
because there wasn't a lot of them, but they fought for 10 men instead of 1 or 2.
I bet they're tough guys. Yeah. Like Australians are known to be tough. Like you guys have giant spiders and crazy snakes. You got to be tough to live there.
And the drop bears. Little bears that live in the tree and hop out of the tree and attack you from the tree.
What do you call them?
Drop bears.
And they bite too, don't they?
Everything bites down there. Including the women. Especially the women.
Ooh, Lordy. There you go, single men. Now you know. You don't like American women? Go on over to Australia. Although, I follow a page. The Australian woman page.
I have not seen that, but I should see that.
It's rough.
I know Chris and Chuck send me little things they find online of Australians doing retarded stuff. So,
oh, that's funny. Jake, what do you got to ask him?
About Tony and Bond stuff.
Tony had nice things to say, interesting things to say about Bon Scott that weren't very nice, sorry. But I think Tony tattooed, put the parrot on his arm here. He either put the parrot or a peacock on him, I can't remember, when Tony was still tattooing in King's Cross. Tony thought in Tony's words, he would have said, "Oh, that fucking queer." But he would have said that just because Bon in the 70s would have been walking around in those tight little cut-off, you know how all the guys who were in bands wore those little tight short shorts where you could see their balls and half their arse cheek hanging out. So for that, anyone walking around looking like that, even if it was fashionable or not, according to Tony, it was fucking queer. You know what I mean? Like, that's Tony. You know what I mean? And you can love him or hate him now for that. But we've got to remember that he's from a different time, different place in time. But I can't remember exactly which one he did, but he did one of the ones on his forearm here, and I can't remember. He used to get tattooed in the Village Tattoo with Painless Alex Chater, which was, he has, I want to say, it's either 3 generations of tattooers or 4. Because Painless Alex, and I could be corrected on this, I think started in a neighbourhood called Paddington and then moved it into the Red Light District. And then his son, Max Chater, took over from Alex, the dad, but there might have even been someone before. The grandfather may have tattooed as well. And then Zach is the son of Max. So they've had the Village Tattoo in King's Cross since the mid-60s, I want to say, but I could be even wrong there.
Wow.
May have even started tattooing in the 50s in Paddington. But it's always been the same family that owned the tattoo. It just moved from Paddington to King's Cross.
The shop's called The Village?
Sorry? It's called the Village Tattoo. And it was tiny. And I remembered going back to stories with Tony because he was my boss for 18 years. You would think he had gone home from the tattoo shop. You think, okay, I'm going home, guys, but he's not. He's gone to the bar on the corner. So on a Friday night, there was always the chance of a sneak attack from Tony to come back from the bar, absolutely blottoed, fucking drunk, trolleyed, yeah? And he'd come in and knock people out. You're doing a tattoo and he'd just knock them out of the way while you're tattooing them. And you couldn't say a word. Again, a different time and place, yeah? So people might think that that's unethical or whatever, but for the moment, it was okay.
Yeah.
And he'd come in there and he'd be hurrying up. Me and Gary, who used to work together on a Friday night, be like, "Come on, hurry up and get these tattoos done. We need to go up to the cross." And of course, that's when me and Gary knew that we weren't going home after work that night. We were going to the cross and basically had to babysit him around all the tattoo studios in the cross while he was running his game on everyone up there. But we would visit them up there at the Village Tattoo. And everyone knew Tony because he'd been doing it for such a long time and he'd made a real success for himself and done so many nice tattoos over the years that everyone respected him a lot. So when Tony walked in, whether he was drunk and going to cause trouble or not, he got respect from everyone there. But some interesting drunken late nights up there with the boss.
I bet.
But all those guys used to get tattooed in the cross, basically. Bon and a heaps of other guys. Stevie Wright, who was the singer of the Easy Beats that came before AC/DC, and I'm forgetting a bunch of other people that used to get tattooed. Nick Cave got tattooed by my old boss Tony.
Really?
Yeah. So did Tex Perkins from the Cruel Sea and the Be Suburban. Nick got I want to say a dragon on his arm or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, Tony did that as well. Yeah.
How about the Bra Boys?
Yep, tattooed lots of them. Lots of them.
And what time frame?
From the 90s into the early 2000s, and then they sort of drifted away a little bit. I want to say that we would still see, I'm forgetting the name of the one brother that's the more famous. I can't remember his name. I tattooed him a bunch of times, but I can't remember his name. No, there's the one brother. Anyway, he's the guy who rides the big waves, yeah?
Yeah.